To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we would like to open the public session. Is there anyone who would like to address the board? For the second time, is there anyone who would like to address the board? For a third and final time, is there anyone who would like to address the board? Hearing none, public session is closed. Before we get into the meeting, I would like to take a moment to introduce to you Amanda Foster, who came on board on February 17th. She is our benefits coordinator as well as our new board secretary. Welcome aboard, Amanda. Reports, Neil?
Thank you, Rosa, and Amanda's done a great job so far, and especially as we transition over to the, hopefully the Connecticut partnership plan, she'll play a big role in that, and she's got a lot of experience from working, I believe, at Anthem, so she's done a good job so far. So I told Rosa that I'd be as quick as I can today, but I have three really important items. I'm going to ask Matt and Judy to weigh in if you feel it's necessary at any point. As has been the case for the last 3 years, or for as long as they've been here, we've had to go before the MARP subcommittee that specifically oversees West Haven to address our budget. And that was the last big item that you guys had approved at our last meeting. And I think when we talked to you last, we said that we had anticipated an increase in our alliance funding similar to what we had gotten in the last several years. Unfortunately, as of today, there was no increase specifically in the alliance grant. And again, we made this all clear to Mark, so I want you to know all of this. But as part of the governor's proposal, he suggested that the money that was set aside for COVID money, for funds, and COVID relief, the first $9 million, which we talked about at least our last meeting, if not a couple of meetings ago, that money should be used aside to supplant the budget. So, again, so the first point being is that when you hear there are $9 million separately set aside for COVID money, that's really not the case. And this money needs to be spent over 2 years, correct, Matt? So again, just if nothing changes, and I'm going to tell you kind of what's may help it change, although funds are tight. This is about $1.5 million this year, or for next year's budget, as well as the following, which gets us down to about $6 million for COVID relief. So, as of the minute the budget came out, I know I talked to Kristen Scanlon today. I know that the teachers' unions are lobbying. I'm going to pass out a letter which nicely summarizes what the cause superintendents are doing. Cause are most of the Alliance District and several of the priority districts. They're the Urban Superintendents League group, which I'm also a member of, that says that it's a nice letter to the governor. And what it says is that, yes, we'll get by this year, we'll get by next year, but at some point those funds have to be making up. Now, historically, what I can tell you is that they've found a way to cover cities like West Haven, East Hartford, Meriden, and as well as the big cities. But it's something you need to keep in the back of your mind as we move forward. It's something that we, specifically brought up to Mark. One of the questions was, does the Board of Ed's proposed budget, this was asked to the city finance director, fall within the capital plan? Well, technically, it does because we have the COVID funds. However, we were counting on $1.5 million, and I think, his first reaction was, not if we have to come up with $1.5 million. The answer is they don't. But, down the road, that money's got to be made up. So I'm going to pass out that form. You can read the letter when you get a chance. But I think that's it in a nutshell. Marv certainly understood that. In fact, one of the more influential members who's always been an advocate for West Haven, at least from the board perspective, is Tom Hamilton. Many, many years ago, Tom was the finance director for the city of West Haven under the Bora administration. And Tom is now the CFO for the Norwalk Public Schools. So he was aware of this. Marv was aware of this. In fact, one of his questions was, does the budget you submitted take into account any new positions? And we said no. We were counting on most of any increase to pay for the teachers' raises. But we are in the process of, and that's where I know Judy's been working with Marissa and the other principals and coordinators. We also, now we're down to $6 million. Now we're going to take, which we should, by the way, that should be our priority. We're going to look at the COVID funds, and we are in the process of developing programs and budgets that would fall into COVID. And that would be supplemental programs for kids that have missed school over the years. It may include summer school, extended hours, several positions, which might work with the social and emotional well-being of students. We're looking at the potential of instructional coaches that could go in and support a grade level at a particular school. I've kind of transitioned Marissa to oversee that. I envision her stepping into a role from now doing contact tracing and a lot of our COVID work to overseeing the COVID programming. And for those of you that have been around for a while, if you remember, we had a priority school district grant coordinator because that was about $2 million a year. Now we're looking at $3 million at least for the next couple of years to oversee the budget and the programs. I'll have more on that next meeting. I know that we're finalizing a plan, and I'm going to have Marissa come and give you guys a report on that. So that's where we stand with the budget. Marv was pleased with the budget. I felt the comments were mostly positive, as it did meet the 5-year plan. They understand that our budget is basically, I don't want to say a status quo budget, but there are no new positions in the budget. It will cover the teachers' raises with the supplanted funds from the COVID, and we will be developing through the grant a separate budget that may add, that most likely will add positions and will add programming to our budget. But again, we're gonna try to keep that separate for now. So let me pass out that letter first. Sure, that you can ask about that.
When you were talking about adding more instructional coaches and that kind of stuff to help the kids, did you consider adding more classroom teachers and making the classroom smaller?
Short answer is yes. Now, one of the things you've got to keep in mind that is that our class sizes are pretty good. The one thing that we have to watch out for is we have Title I schools where we've actually done some of that classroom reduction. So I can't supplant that at the other schools. It's kind of what you do for one, you have to do for all the other schools to make it even. But Title I schools, in the short term, have more money, or get more funding programs. So we've got to be a little bit careful against those things.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure, let me go over here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
When you talk about these positions being funded through this grant, does that mean when this grant runs out, these positions go?
Yeah, short term, yeah. Here's what I would tell you. One other thing that Matt and I were actually thinking about. The good news from our local budget point of view is that we're going to take the larger salaries and put them off on the grant, And that will create, because they're gonna be the more experienced teachers that would get the coach leader type positions. So our budget, our teacher line item budget would be funded with mostly new teachers. So yeah, there would be some room to hire a few more teachers, because the higher paid teachers are already on the payrolls. You almost get two for one. Not, it doesn't quite work out that way, but yeah.
Thank you.
If I can add, the budget that you guys passed a couple meetings ago, it also assumes that there will be no retirement. It assumes that everybody here today will be here when the next fiscal year starts. Obviously, history tells us that that won't be the case, so any savings that we recoup from any retirements will also be able to factor in lessening the increase and supplementing some other line items. So it's another thing to think about.
The other good news too, I should also mention another, which not in the proposed budget, but down the road, if we move to the state partnership plan, you know, this year, a lot of it is to pay what we've talked to you about, and that's the runoff to the old Anthem plan. But after that, there's about $1 million a year savings, so we'll make up some of the money as well in year 2 and beyond.
Anybody else have any questions?
On that section, then I got a couple more things.
Just a recap, you said so there'll be no increase in the Alliance grant, it's flat funded, at least.
Yes, in other words, any anticipated increase, which we normally get, the governor said, use the COVID relief funds first.
Okay, so,
And that's, by the way, Jimmy, I should say this, remember, you've got cause lobbying, you've got boards of education's lobbying, you've got teachers unions lobbying. There could be a change, a compromise or whatever, so it's kind of a stay tuned. However, my guess is if the money's there now, no one's gonna kind of look 3, 4, 5 years down the road.
so again, about $9 million you said put aside for COVID relief, I guess, basically is what you're saying. To the plan, budget, which now is $6 million because we're $1.5 million.
Because we're gonna take about $1.5 million to
Right.
make our budget whole for the next couple of years as proposed.
So you could say that you're gonna probably fill several positions in instructional coaches, and I, just want to piggyback on what Rose said also, which I think is a good idea. What I'm concerned about is down the road, if, the money's not there, like, Matt said that, people retire and stuff like that, so, if you do hire those positions, you feel strongly enough that these positions will stay on down the road.
I'd like to think so, Jim. Remember, that's why we're getting the money. The money is coming because, a lot of the money is coming because in theory, kids are behind, they need to make up. So we're going to need these positions. We may need some additional social workers and, maybe another guidance counselor or two here because kids are behind or they're not, on track to go to college. So we are going to need those positions short term. Now, are those positions always going to be there? No, but if 5 or 10 teachers leave per year, which they normally do, no one will get hope. Though the hope is that nobody's going to get laid off. However, we may lose those positions, but I suppose that, again, the thinking may be in 2 or 3 years, you'll have done what you can do to catch the kids up.
But also, not to guarantee that any position will stay, but once the COVID funds run out, the anticipation is that the Alliance grant increases will begin again. So the expectation from the governor is that there will be a steady stream of money coming into districts like ours. So I don't think it's not a foregone conclusion that as soon as this $9 million runs out, that there won't be additional money elsewhere to continue to fund programs as necessary.
Let me also say this too, I think that's a great point, but that does not, I'm not taking into consideration right now, or we're not, or no one is at this point, the $1.9 trillion package that's currently being debated in Washington right now. Is it going to be 1.9 trillion? I don't know, but I believe we're going to get something. So there will be some additional funding. What I'm hoping though is that, as more funding becomes available, we're going to get more time over the next several years to be able to spend the money. In other words, right now, it's, they have to be by 2023, correct?
Correct, yeah, so it looks, in the governor's original, budget proposal, and there might be a little disconnect between the governor and the State Department of Ed at this point. But, the State Department of Ed seemed to make it that we would be able to get the $9 million up front and be able to spend it over the next 2 fiscal years. The governor's proposal, made it seem like we'll receive $4.5 million next year and then $4.5 million the following year. So I think there's a lot of things still in play and a lot of things that the legislation is still playing out.
Just one other thing too, I've been on the board now for 7+ years, and I think we've always talked about the Alliance grant, that possibly down the road, it could dry up, is that correct? I mean,
Well,
we're obviously a needy district,
Right,
and if we could get into a higher tier, then that money won't probably be there.
Well, yes and no, because in the beginning, when we first started talking about how the money could dry up, like in the first 5 years of the plan, the state kept it as 2 separate entities. They had the Alliance grant and the Alliance and the ECS funds. But over the past couple of years, they've combined the two to have one allotment. I think to ensure that if this Alliance district ever runs, like, is not involved anymore, like the behind the scenes get the money approved and the grants and budgets approved, that the money won't leave the district, so the districts will be held harmless, so to speak, if that ever goes away. Like the requirements that we have to do outside of getting the money.
So you feel strongly the money will be there, if
Yes,
the Alliance grants.
yes, yes.
Let me tell you what I believe. I believe that there's always a chance, when you're working with a grant, that the money doesn't come here. It's happened to us in the past. The best example, and I don't know if I was the assistant superintendent at the time or still a principal, but the priority school district funds. That's when we first started implementing all the kindergarten and whatnot. Guys, we lost the funding, we lost the program. It's as simple as that. Now, having said that, here's what I believe. I believe if you look at the 33 districts that signed this letter, every one of the urban superintendents signed this. This was unanimously signed. In fact, it's highlighted because I highlighted Norwalk because I wanted to point out to Tom Hamilton that his boss, the superintendent there, signed the letter. But I just don't believe that the state can ever let the 33 neediest districts just pull the rug out and let them drown. So while that funding source may dry up, maybe something else will come along. I think, the good news is short-term we're okay. We're probably a little better than okay. Well, let's see what happens when the next round of stimulus funding gets passed. But for us not to say it, or for the superintendents not to sign a letter like that and do their lobbying, those are things and those are reasons why we belong to those groups, so that, we can at least keep people, on their toes or aware that, these are things that have to be resolved. So, again, there's no crystal ball here, but somehow, some way, we've always, and we're a distressed municipality, there's no other way of looking at it. We're always going to fall into that category that's going to get some help.
But isn't it true that when the state started this program, they were taking money away? It's the board of ed and districts, our responsibility to legislate and saying, we need this money. That's the bottom line. It's not up to you, it's up to us to take action.
But Pat, you're exactly right. That's why I'm a member of CAUSE, you're a member of CAVE. There was a form letter that I was asked to sign that I sent to our legislators. That's what's happening right now. We are early in the budget stages. But again, the good news is we're not fighting for our lives. We know we've got this money coming now, and again, short term, we're going to get through next year fine. We're going to get through the following year fine. I even have a feeling that if we get some more money through the stimulus package, we'll be fine. Be interesting to see what happens. I'd like to, you know, you guys know some of the projects we've done. We've done a lot of infrastructure projects now. I do think the priority on this 9 million has got to be funding for programs, because at some point kids are coming back to school and they're behind. Let's not kid each other, and they're going to need that extra help. So we'll have to put some of the infrastructure things on the back burner. But even then, even those types of projects, you know, if we didn't have this money, they weren't getting done. And at some point, they needed to get done anyway. So, you know, thank God for the money.
I just want to just recap it one more time. What you're doing, I agree with, okay? $6 million, and I like the idea of the positions and instructional coaches, things of that nature. What I'm trying to say, I guess, is that down the road is that I don't want the rug to be pulled out from us and saying these programs are successful. There's other kids going to be coming up that are going to need this type of help. I like to see that these programs, you know, get abolished for kids that certainly going to need resources to move forward. That's my concern at this point.
Yeah, no, listen, it's.
I like what you're doing, but I'm simply saying is that I'd love to see, you know, be nice if the money could still somehow stay there down the road for kids who are going to need it, you know, who aren't even there yet.
I agree with you, but I also want to point out, you know, one more time, and Bob, you've been the biggest proponent of this. It's another reason why at some point the city, even if it's a small amount, and remember, we've got a 5-year approved plan where there really is no increase to the Board of Ed. It's why, or the rationale behind giving the Board of Ed a small increase every year, so you're not digging it, coming out of a deeper hole. And that's something that, you know, again, has been a problem. We're very reliant, in my opinion, too reliant. We've been lucky, but we're too reliant on the state. And, you know, again, it's difficult for you guys or any of us here to try to tell people that, you know, you get a really good value of an education in West Haven, because about 50% of it is not funded by the local taxpayer. So that's a really good deal. You get a $90 million education for $45 million.
Yeah, you know, obviously the largest concern with that 9 million is being able to spend it over 2 budget years or 2 fiscal years. If they only give you that money to spend in the 12-month period, you may look good in the first year, but the second year is going to create a huge problem.
Yeah, I think we'll be okay for the 2 years, next year and the following year. You know, what we're going to have to do is, again, the first priority, I've made it clear. Marissa's, again, we're working on that. And Judy, I don't know if you probably know more than me as to what's taking place in some of the actual meetings and some of the ideas. And we won't hold you to any of them, but if you want to maybe, you know, let these guys kind of know what's going on. But Bob, the first priority is programming, whatever that is. What's ever left, we're going to have to figure out a way to spend, and we'll spend some of it on infrastructure and other things.
So, before you get up there, to answer your question, if the money was given to us all up front, the state doesn't just send us a check for 9 million. What happens is I have to go into a state system and justify the monthly spend for the next month, and prove to the state what we'll be spending. So I wouldn't be able to just take all the 9 million. I'd have to show that this month we're spending X, next month we're spending Y. So we would be on budget, and we would be able to make sure that the money's available for the next year if it's all up front and not spread out over 2 years.
And whatever the trade is, has to be approved first, similar to the alliance.
Well, some of the highlights of things that we've discussed, and I haven't been with all grade levels. I know the high school definitely could probably use guidance counselors and extra support there. Elementary, we were looking a lot at programs, and as Neil said, coaches for the kids, extra support as far as teachers, extra resources, maybe like a summer school program, but a really intense one that would be like for, say, 3-4 weeks, that it would be our regular ed kids that we know need support. Because what we've been looking at is you have children that have been out a whole year now. So that's one tier of kids there that really is going to need a lot of support. And I know parents have worked really hard, and those kids, some of those kids are really on target, but a lot of them haven't been able to do the kinds of things that we've been doing in school. Then you have the kids that have been in, out, in and out during the year. They're gonna need support too. We have, of course, our kids that have attended every single day, but still need some kind of support. So we're looking at like a lot of different weaknesses. So we need a lot of different people to support it. We need the coaches. We would like to have the itinerants, maybe in some of the buildings, and I'm just gonna say mine, I share a science teacher. I love science. My kids love science. We want science every single day. So that might be something else we look at. Library, which is very important. And you can integrate different subject areas as you're teaching. Science, you can put math and language arts in. You can do the same thing when you're doing library of media. Even math, you can integrate your language arts. In language arts, you can put some math into it. So doing those kinds of things and getting the extra support with the itinerants would be great. Our small groups, if we have an extra itinerant period, we can have the kids get extra support with SRBI groups, an extra person pulling kids out. Really addressing those needs and weaknesses that we've seen that they're coming in with. Assessing the kids. I'm already looking at my kids and I've been talking to the teachers and saying, okay, look at the way the kids came in, think of your kids that are working out. What do you think generally they're gonna need help with? So we're talking about a lot of extra support. And again, maybe extra classrooms for some of those buildings that have larger numbers. So those are some of the things. Even on our level, I can tell you, maybe an extra social worker for a couple days a week, because the little ones have been out and they really need someone extra to talk to, and you can only put one social worker. I'm a small building, in a Savin Rock or a Forest, they might need an extra social worker to work with those kids. Coming back, what an adjustment that's going to be for some of those babies. Kindergartners going into first, big step. So we have like a lot of different ways that we can use that extra funding. The high school, of course, that's a different animal. Special ed is another need. We had special, and Joe, I'm speaking, but I'm sure you can add in, some of these kids haven't been back. We may need extra support there, working with the kids. So believe me, we can use it. Yeah.
Are you considering any, my biggest concern is that we built this high school and we have a great state-of-the-art kitchen. We have tech ed all over the place. We have nothing in 5, 6, 7, 8, and we're really deep into that. And that's the way to teach math. That's the way to teach reading. That's the way to put kids' hands-on stuff. Are we doing any of that with this? Because I really think these kids need that. They went home. They don't even want to make it. They can make something in the microwave. They don't know how to cook. They don't know how to.
I agree, and that is a good suggestion, and I'm sure those age levels could use that. I agree 100%, and that kind of stuff the kids like. I mean, even in the elementary, they would like stuff like that.
But I think it's important now that you can't inundate them. They're going to hate school.
Well, Pat,
Well,
I
you
think,
do.
I think a really good point that you're making, it reminds me of when we created the science labs, how many years ago,
Right.
where we made that an itinerant. I mean, maybe we don't think of just an itinerant class as solely gym or solely music or art. We do something with hands-on lessons. And regardless of what it is, you know what I
think
mean?
it's important, and I also think because we don't have that, they don't get that experience here in 5, 6, 7, 8, and then when they come here, they don't know if they like sewing or if they like cooking or any of the other things that we offer here. And I think it's important for us to add that in, because like I said, if you do too much, I just see kids getting frustrated doing all this coaching without having some practical
You know,
application.
Pat, one of the things that we're hearing, G has been in the high school meetings, is that, an issue that's come up is, you think you give every kid a laptop computer and that solves the problem. Well, now they're almost spending too much time on the laptops, and there's not enough time, with group work, group discussion, hands-on assignments. And we talked to, or we've heard from Raphael about the lack of, group science work. So I think that goes to your point that we need to, get back to different types of lessons.
Multimodal.
Yeah, that goes with the English language learners too. They really need that hands-on too. So, any questions?
Thank you, Judy.
So, Judy, I may call you back up for this segment too. The next thing I want to give to you is, this is really good news, by the way. What I want to hand out, we did a comparison from January 22nd to Fridays in-school attendance. And I want to pass it out to you because you'll see that, all of our principals, starting with Judy, and if you look at Seth Haley and the school's in-person attendance, we've really done a good job of convincing people to come back to our schools. We went from, and again, with 5,000 or almost 6,000 kids in the school district, we went from 59% in-school attendance about a month ago to 66%, which I think is really good. So kids are coming back to school. And, I know one of the things that we've been working on, and I know Judy feels strongly about it, and I do too, that we really got to incorporate the distance learners more into the daily lessons and expand our school day. Now, we kind of put it on pause. We really have come, actually, this is the second meeting where I come prepared to talk to you about extending the day with a specific plan and a specific date. I want to hold off on that just because I think in the next couple of days, we're going to get a really good idea of a plan and a schedule for vaccinating all of our staff. So to wait a couple of weeks, I don't think it's going to matter. However, I think, especially given what Judy and we were saying about getting kids back to school, I think lengthening the day, increasing the hours of instruction is going to be good for the kids to build stamina and to get them, especially the ones that are just coming back, to find out where we really stand so that we're more ready for next year. But the numbers are great. Now, one exception, and by the way, Galen Carrigan made significant jumps, and I'm really proud of that. One area, and I'm going to say this now because we're trying, I just don't anticipate a high school with a big bump between now and the rest of the year. And the reason being is I think if you're a senior and you've been accepted into college, or on the other end, you're just not doing well, it's going to be hard to increase the percentage of kids to come back. I think we need to, there are two areas of concern at the high school. The juniors and seniors, and that's getting them ready, especially the seniors for next year, and getting the juniors on target to graduate. I think the freshmen and the sophomores are where we have to spend the time trying to get them back to school as quickly as possible. So again, I'm going to be really honest with you. I'd like to tell you that I'm going to get that number up, and it was kind of inching up before. I think there was one day we had almost 60%, or it was pretty high. But if we can get it to 60%, I think that would be a real major accomplishment. But I just don't see it. Not with the end of the year, and kids have missed so much, and if you haven't been in already and you're passing your classes, there may not be that incentive to come back. But we really need to give you guys what the plan is going to be. I'm hoping the latest will be maybe when we come back from the April vacation, we're going to extend the day. But it's all going to depend on when the vaccines are given out, and I'm hopeful I'm going to have a plan in the next day or two that's going to say, Neil, get your people wherever on this day, and we're going to do most of your districts. I think it can be done in a couple of days if we have dedicated sites for our people.
And enough vaccines.
And enough. Well, Rosa, I know there's some frustration on some of our staff's part. The frustration is it comes from the health department, and we're pushing them, but their answer has been, for example, Neil, we were expecting 600 doses, we only got 200. So it's nobody's fault. I think they're reluctant to say go ahead and schedule it because they've been short. Although I don't see that as a problem going forward. I think the doses are going to be available, and my feeling is let's schedule them. I think and this leads me into the third topic I was going to speak to you about tonight, the vaccines. You know, I told our administrators last week, if they told me, Neil, tomorrow you'll have 500, I'll get 500 people there. We will do what we need to do to expedite this as quickly as possible. You know, that includes if I have to do a remote learning day or a couple of remote learning days throughout the district, you know, in order to cover classes, we'll do that. You know, I've made it clear, although I'm not sure what rules the health department is working on, and they've been very cooperative, that all of our gymnasiums are available. You know, Jill Greco has made it clear that, you know, we've got 15 nurses ready to go. So, you know, I think the one reluctance, though, as you mentioned, is getting the vaccine, getting the vials of the vaccine in hand so that we can, you know, get them in everybody's arm.
Well, with the Johnson & Johnson going out, I'm hopeful that we're gonna see a drastic increase in the numbers of vaccinated in the near future.
Yeah, also too, I mean, one of the things that, you know, occurred to me, and I had a long conversation with Kristen and kind of gave her where I believe we really stand today. I don't want to make any promises publicly yet, but I did talk to her. You know, the other thing is that I know there were literally a lot of our staff members, Matt being one of them, that was online at midnight, and as soon as the system opened up. So, you know, if there are people, if we say a week from Friday we're going, and I get 100 people or 50 people that say, I've got an appointment before then, they're coming off the list, and that expedites the process as well. Rose?
My question is about the vaccine. It's a couple of questions. I know teachers are feeling really frustrated and they don't really feel like they're understanding what the process is and why it didn't happen. Because we all knew that March 1st, teachers were going to become eligible for the vaccine. And I don't understand why there wasn't a clearer plan that we could have started like on Wednesday to start vaccinating our teachers.
Well, we got 80 people vaccinated on Friday before we were even supposed to start, so that's a real positive.
For those teachers, those were teachers.
No, what we did was, I had actually, it was an article in the paper, I don't know if you saw, but we looked at a lot of different ways to get everybody vaccinated. Mm-hmm. And what we decided was we went from oldest to youngest, regardless of the union. I'm not in the union, so regardless of where I stand, we're going to, we've got the 80, not necessarily seniority, oldest employees. And a lot of them have come off since we first compiled the list because 75 and over and 65 and over, so we were able to eliminate them. Some people, believe it or not, said no. So our list is ready to go. I can tell you again, if they told me tomorrow, Neil, get your people at this place, we'll do it very easily. As Rosa had pointed out, the reluctance from the health department's point of view is the number of vaccines available to our people. But as far as the plan, I think that I think in the next couple of days I'll be able to pretty much assure most people in our district that this is the date where we have you scheduled to go get a vaccine.
I think that would be really helpful for people's feelings and emotions. I mean, I think, it's going on a year and a couple of weeks. And
the one thing that we've heard is the larger districts where large-scale clinics have been scheduled and the nurses actually work for the health department, those have been able to go on, but they're dedicated to teachers. So there are some examples where people may have gotten appointments, but I don't believe it's the majority. In fact, I was on a webinar where that was pointed out that, not everybody is scheduled on this was Friday. And so we're ready. I mean, we got 80 people done. There's a chance that we may be tacked on to another clinic this week. And then I think the large scale one will take place sometime next week.
I think it's important for the teachers to hear this, that you're ready, and if it becomes available, you're ready to say 100 people, we're gonna get you vaccinated today.
We did 80 in less than, I'm gonna say about half a day. If they tell us tomorrow, and again, you were on, we said, we'll make it work. get everybody vaccinated, we'll cover, we'll send, we'll do remote learning, we'll do whatever it takes to get it done. I can tell you that, I know that, again, the health department, we were a little bit frustrated, but I think during the course of last week, as we got more information, we felt better about where we stand today. Again, I don't want to say something now where somebody's going to say, Neil, you said this is going to happen, but I'm pretty confident that we'll be releasing something in the next couple of days.
We did talk to our staff, I think most of us, and told them what the process was. We all met last week once we had talked to Neil. So we did tell them what the process was and how we were approved by age. And as soon as we found out more that they know they're going to get the vaccine. Volunteers. My staff was fine.
And we thought, even prior to the governor saying do it by age, what we came to was that was the fairest way to do it. I mean, as they said in the newspaper, yes, teachers are really important, but food service people have been working since the beginning of the pandemic. Our custodians have been working the entire time. The fairest way to do it was really by age.
No, I understand that. I just think, communicating what we're doing and just reassuring teachers that it's coming and, we're all going to be vaccinated.
They were given, I mean, I don't know if you guys had received it, but 2 letters went out last week. One saying, this is what the time frame is. And here are some links if you want to go and do it on yourself. The second letter said, we're working closely with the health department. We should have a plan. It's not recommended that you go out on your own, but we certainly can. So 2 letters went out. And by the way, they went out to Notre Dame, St. Lawrence, our employees, as well as, we didn't send the letter to Linkobus, but we've been in constant communication with Linkobus. Those are the people that we need to take care of to get everybody accounted for.
I know today on my chart that they posted around noontime a couple of links that teachers only could sign up for the vaccine outside of school.
Yeah, that's one of the things we're working on. In other words, and again, without giving too much away, if we were to get, for example, 500 doses of the vaccine, what we would do is schedule those 500 people, and then we'd work with somebody like with Yale or one of the private healthcare facilities and schedule the last 200. But those 200 would have to go online and make an appointment. It would be dedicated for our people, but that's what would happen.
Thank you.
Also, I have a question.
Sure.
You have a plan staggering everyone where for the second shot thing, for reaction wise?
Yeah, Andrea, I think that's another reason why age works and not by school.
Yeah, you gotta.
But the other thing is, right now, we're looking at towards the end of the week.
Yeah.
I know my wife and daughters had it as well. There were some reactions, at least the second time.
Yeah.
Just a couple things on your report. In the next month or so, can we get a status of the Bailey Road as far as when we might see a finish date on that? And then a status on the West Haven High School project timeline? Are we still looking for a return to school? We're in good shape and most of the construction is done. So obviously in a future meeting or two.
No problem.
And then you and I spoke briefly, but I know we will soon see next year's school calendar, and I would like to know the board superintendent philosophy going forward with snow days. While I certainly understand online virtual learning has come a long way, are we going to erase the opportunity for kids to make snow day memories? Will we support some true snow days? We are hearing a lot about the mental health impacts caused by distant virtual learning on the children. What about the mental health of allowing kids to be kids, parents and grandparents to make memories with children and grandchildren? Some of those parents will be our teachers, grandparents, who will lose out on making memories if every day is a distant virtual learning day. I fully support that not every day will be a snow day, but I would like this board to support the concept of snow days so kids can still be kids. Let's not take every snow day to erase the chance for kids to be kids, creating memories.
So let me address that, Bob. So first and foremost, I think one of the positives that have come out of the pandemic is remote learning and being able to use it for snow days. I do believe that it's important to keep the continuity up. In other words, you can't lose 3 or 4 days of instruction in a row. In several years, we haven't had that situation, but that's happened. You know, it's happened where, you know, you're out of school 3 or 4 days, and then you're back in school, and then the next thing you know is the February vacation. So continuity is very important. More so in February, by the way, than in June when you make the days up. I mean, let's not kid each other. The days in June are, you know, everybody can't wait to get out of there. The days are long. There's a lot of special activities, but there's not as much constructive learning going on. Normally, we bring you the calendar. This meeting, I think we're waiting for the teachers union to comment on it, but this was my thought. And I think I shared this with a couple of board members who felt pretty strongly that, you know, we need to have that break in the snow day. So what my feeling is that, you know, when you get the calendar, you're going to see the 180th day of school. Now, if it's, and I forget the day because Tammy knows it better than I do right now, but let's say the last day of school is June 10th. If you tell me, or we kind of say, we're not going to go beyond the 15th, then I'll know how many days we have to play with. However, I will say, and I said this to Bob, the one negative that I did hear, and everybody was really happy with the snow day, especially, and I had it in the back of my mind, and I know I talked to Pat about it and some of you other guys, but, you know, I said I really wanted to tack it on and get it like on a Monday or a Friday, so it could be a nice long weekend. But don't think we didn't get but Neil, we have to make up the day. Yes, you have to make up the day. I mean, we have to go 180 days, so that is a part of it. And, you know, just like in years past, you know, we have to hold teachers accountable on that. Don't book your vacation and what you think is going to be the last school. So that's just the other little side of it, and we'll deal with that. We'll get through it. But my feeling is that, you know, as long as next year we know what the proposed 180th day is and how far we're willing to go, because we don't want to go to June 30th either. I mean, we'd rather, you know, I use the 15th. I think that's a reasonable cutoff day. But I don't know if that's a Friday, Saturday. So I don't know what the day of the week is next year. But we can add that into the mix when you approve the calendar at the next board meeting.
Anything else? Thank you, Neil.
A lot of questions tonight, Rosa. I know Rosa told me.
Hey, don't make the board think that I'm pressuring you to end this meeting early.
Not because there's a basketball game over at the gym.
Thank you very much. Student reps. Stay there.
I want to talk about is that we just announced our senior activities for the semester year. So we're going to go through them and if you have questions about them or if there's anything you're interested in joining. So our first one is this month, it's March 24th, which is our SAT day for all junior, sophomore, and freshmen, but for seniors, it's senior experience day. That made it a little bit different for his COVID rules, but that means that seniors can go and, you know, shadow a job opportunity. They can go on college search, things like that. Our next date is April 19th. That's the valedictorian and salutatorian drive-by. We'd love for anybody who wants to participate to come to the drive-by. Then we have March 6th is our National Honor Society induction. And again, we would love if COVID is willing and everything for you guys to be able to attend. Our next is May 14th, which is the Top 20 luncheon. And then we have this year 2 prom dates because of COVID outside rules. So our first prom date is May 21st, and our second prom date is May 28th. The juniors decided to hold off on prom this year and just focus on senior prom next year. One of our last dates is May 25th, which is senior day. That will include like that will be our, instead of up all night, we will invite all the seniors to 6 Flags. And that will be our senior day in place of up all night. Then we have June 4th is a senior picnic, which will take place out on football fields and will entail a bunch of like food trucks and backyard games. Then we have June 8th is senior awards, and hopefully June 15th is graduation. Our rain date for graduation is June 17th. Then I have just a few more things. We had one slight problem this week, which was we found a few computers were blocking certain sites, but the library and the computer
very quickly to help, and teachers found quick ways to, find ways to unblock certain sites that help with the educational purposes. And then I have one question, for Neil about, or Mr. Caballero, just about the COVID vaccines. I know the last time that we had spoken about extending the school day, you said once teachers had gotten their vaccines, we would be able to revisit that. Do you think that will happen before the school year ends, or would it be a possibility for next year?
No, our goal is to extend the school day this year.
And then,
I'm hoping the latest, I'd like to do it before, but again, I'm gonna wait and see when the timing of the vaccines take place. At the latest, I'm hoping maybe we come back from April vacation, but I'm hoping before that.
okay, yeah, some teachers did have questions about that, but, for the most of the teachers that I had today, they're very excited about being able to get the vaccines. And then, one of the clubs that I brought here, back in, I believe, November, December, the Philadelphia Mind Club, just expanded their branch from Weston High School to the middle schools and the intermediate schools. And then lastly, no, that's it. And then Anthony just has.
I have a question for the yes. The drive-by thing, that's the kind of stuff that we're gonna do that. We send out letters, they can send something out about that, so we know time and place and all that.
Yeah, we'll send out an email about, other students.
And if you do honor society and all that, if we can't go, we're gonna be virtual.
Yeah, oh yeah, there will be a virtual, live teaming of it that we'll try to get either through, social media or through like emailing or YouTube link.
Now, the question too about the prom, the 21st is like you split up the class for you.
So right now we're going to start selling tickets, and you can just pick a date, and we're just offering it to seniors first, no dates right now, because we don't really want to bring outsiders in, and, just making sure that seniors are able to go to this, one of the few activities that we're given this year. And then we'll see what we have there. Right now, the outside capacity limit is 200 people at Philadelphia, which is where we have it from. And so if we get less than 200 people, then, we may stay with just one date. But we do have over 330 kids in our class. We want to make sure that if all 330 kids want to participate.
Yeah, Pat, we actually had a meeting, Jill, myself, Marissa, and Dana, because our goal is to try to get back to as many in-person activities. And I know Dana had talked to the officers of the senior class and you guys as well. And, especially when it comes to the outside activities, be it, Great Adventure or the proms, we're relying on, we've asked for, and we're going to rely on those facilities to say, these are the rules in which you can come under.
I did a wedding in Philadelphia outside, it's beautiful, it was in October, it was freezing, but it was nice, they had the heaters and the big tent, it was beautiful, it was magical, because it was like all the sparkling lights and all that, it was great.
And even graduation, we're going to try to, as best we can, to stay away from the drive-through ones. However, we may have to go, if we do it on the football field, there may need to be 2 or 3 different sessions, taking into account clearing out the lot and, people are going to want to take pictures. And so turnaround time will be really important for those as well.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Moving on, I'd like to give an update about clubs. So a few clubs are meeting in person this week. I know I have my first in-person robotics meeting, and for class council, we have a meeting on auditorium this Friday. Just talk about sports. There is no positive cases in sports thus far, and I know for track last week we had our first virtual meet where we submitted times to the SEC, and there's been an increase overall in in-person runners at Weston High School. I think we talked about it this morning. This is Brady's. It was like around 800 earlier this year. It's down to 600. And then for National Honor Society, we're putting in efforts to help some of our younger students in the West Haven community, and we are doing personalized tutoring over student calls. I know me personally, I start tutoring a 7-year-old in English this week. And then a few fundraisers coming up is Maddie Hatch fundraiser at Cup Teachers Friday and the West Haven High School's PTA Christmas.
Thank you. All set, let's move on.
board. We'll start with you, Jim.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. I'll give a compliment to Neil tonight. His decision to allow parents to come in, watch their kids play in the sports. I went to the game on Saturday, the hockey game on Saturday, and they did a great job over there. They were all, well spaced out there. Security did a good job. Tammy had everybody sign in, and I said, other rinks won't allow anybody to come into there to watch their kids play, and I think deserve a lot of compliment for that anyways. And, I think it was the right decision, and I applaud for that. Also want to compliment again tonight the decision to give a snow day for the last snowstorm. I believe that the staff, the students, the parents were very happy that you did that, especially with the pandemic and everything. I know the school systems were on remote learning, but I thought you did a right move there. And you talk about getting another day in June, but I really believe everybody was appreciative of what you did to the staff, students, and parents. So that's about it for now.
Thank you, Jim.
Sorry, I missed the spelling bee for the first time in years. The Zoom thing just didn't work. Hopefully we're back in first of next year. That's it.
Thank you. Andrea?
So I did get to watch the whole spelling bee, so that was done very nicely. And I also listened to the board meeting with Neil, and they seemed pretty receptive to everything he was talking about. So I didn't hear, it didn't sound negative at all. It was a good meeting. It was a really good meeting. And that was it.
Thank you. Bruce?
Oh, congratulations.
Yes, congratulations, Anthony. I just want to say I was able to attend the spelling bee. And I want to congratulate all the participants. They did a great job, as usual, and the words get a little bit tricky there, and the kids really did great. I enjoyed that event. It's a nice event. And I also want to say that I was happy with Neil's decision to have a snow day. I loved seeing all the pictures of the kids outside in the snow on the website, so that was great. Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick? Thank you. Yes, ma'am? Always.
I'm really happy that PTA Council dedicated the spelling bee throughout Beverly. Across this community, and I just want to see that. And my only other thing is that I'm happy that tomorrow night is senior night for hockey, and so I can't wait. That's it.
Thank you. I just want to say thanks to everyone. Neil, I know that you guys have had your hands full, Candy, with trying to prioritize the list of teachers who will be vaccinated. And I'm sure that it was very time consuming, and I just want to say thank you to everyone who participated. Jill, HR, everybody who was active in putting that list together. Of course, Neil, as you know, I want to say thank you for the snow day, because obviously I was not the only board member who was pressuring you to give these kids a break. And I also wanted to say kudos to you for defending our parents and our student athletes and allowing parents to be an active participant in our sports activities. And that's it. So let's move on. Let's move on to D1, approval of minutes. We have a motion.
Second.
Can I just say something on the minutes from last meeting? I spoke about Neil, about the teachers getting into this state insurance. Not in the minutes, not reflected in the minutes right now. I guess I put that in the minutes if that's possible.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. We now have a request for an amendment to the minutes during discussion that the state plan insurance medical benefit for teachers be added to the minutes.
Rosa,
You know what I'll do? I'll work with Tammy. I think the discussion was what's the status? And I was able to update Jimmy and say that there's a pretty good likelihood that we're going to move to that. So I think we can amend the minutes to add that. Also, just on another note, I don't know if I was clear enough. We've completed the application as of now, so the process is moving forward.
That's awesome news, Neil. I know that I've been beating you up about the state plan for some time, and I'm really glad to hear that. At this time, I would like to request that the motion be rescinded.
second.
Okay, we're going to table the minutes, approval of the minutes, until such time as the minutes are amended.
Make a motion to table pending the correction.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. D2 resignations 2107, Gina J. Quinto. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. D3, new hire, certified, 2108. We have a motion. Second,
Second.
any discussion?
Yeah, Rosa, if I could just add, that if we find a quality, especially a shortage area like an EL person, we're ready and willing and able to bring them on board now because, keep in mind that as we create new positions, other districts are in the process of doing the same thing. So if we can secure them early, that will help us next year because, as I've said to our administrators, we can come up with the greatest plan in the world, but if we can't get the teachers to deliver the instructions, they're not worth the paper they're written on.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The rest is informational. May I have a motion to adjourn? Meeting is adjourned at 7:05 p.m.